So let's tackle this. I think this is in 3 slides. We're going to tackle what is mind. I'm going to give you what I believe mind is. So I'm going to say this is what mind is. And what I want to suggest to you is that the widest and biggest and strongest and most powerful concept of mind that you can have might be the best one to have. Okay, the one that has the greatest possibilities for healing might be the one you'd want to have. So I'm going to take you out there with this. Any definition of mind, first of all, must consider consciousness. Mind, remember, this is all you have. You're going to download all this. Mind and consciousness defy scientific definition. They do. And yet, to talk about it, you really should have an idea of what you mean by it. So consciousness and awareness, we'll start off here, are synonyms. What you're aware of is what you're conscious of. And what you're conscious of, that's where your awareness is focused. And remember, we talk about hypnosis and healing. We are focusing people's awareness, aren't we? We are focusing people's consciousness. Whether we're admitting it or not, that's what we're doing. Consciousness, then, is defined as the capacity to perceive and respond. That is something that every one of your 50 trillion cells in your body has, consciousness. If you take a single cell or a group of cells and drop them in a petri dish, and then you drop an identical pair in another petri dish, and you put food in one petri dish and poison in the other petri dish, the cells in the petri dish with food will move toward the food, and the cells in the petri dish with the poison will move away from the poison, because they're conscious. And that's what happens in your body. Their consciousness responds to all these neurological signals and performs their jobs constantly because they can do that, because they have consciousness and awareness. So, consciousness is the fundamental building block of all life and of the universe. We're made of consciousness, and what we came from is also made of consciousness. So basically, everything is aware. So there's the first extreme statement. All right, slide 2, what is mind? Our being in all of life is organized, integrated, and it has a sense of direction. So imagine if you're a Cub Scout and you have to identify trees, and they give you, your Cub Scout manual, and it shows you an outline of an oak tree, and it shows you the outline of a willow tree. Well, you know exactly what a full-grown willow tree and oak tree is going to look like. Why? Because that's what it's organized and integrated and what its sense of direction is to become. But that whole tree isn't contained in the acorn. And yet it has a sense of direction, it has a sense of purpose, it has consciousness and awareness, and we know what it's going to look like when it's full grown. And the same way with people, and the same way with a lot of things. Everything reaches fruition. Everything has a sense of direction and integration. So therefore, as far as I'm concerned, mind may be defined as the organ of that organization, integration and direction across the lifespan, and it is the quality that makes that possible. That's what mind is. The directing organ, the directing influence on everything that has a sense of direction in the universe. That's what mind is. Mind is what gets that to happen. Now notice, a friend of mine used to say, now this is the best of a lot of bad ways to say this. You know, and that's really true. It's like you really have to stretch to say, here's this thing that's an organ. If it was an organ, that's what it would be. But it isn't. It's something a little more ephemeral than that. And yet we all talk, everybody, nobody doesn't talk about their mind. They're either losing it or they can't, you know, where did they leave it? Or they can't keep it on something, or, you know, they got something on it. Well, take it off. It's like everybody uses that word, and everybody, you know, has some idea what they mean, and they, you know, you ought to try asking them. Okay, so slide 3. So the mind is more than the brain. Mind and body function as a unit called the body-mind. So if you read Candace Pert's wonderful book, Molecules of Emotion, which is on this the bibliography here, I don't know if she coined the term, but she really uses it heavily, because she says you cannot really separate the mind from the body. And current neuroscientists feel exactly the same way. That, you know, whatever it is that's directing the integration, unfolding, and direction of your body across the lifespan isn't just going on in your brain. It's going on in cycles and loops throughout your whole system. So you really can't separate these two things. So you have to say that your mind is all around you and everywhere. So, therefore, mind is not local. Well, mind is not local not only in the sense that it's not in your brain, it's also non-local in the sense that insofar as it's composed of molecules and subatomic particles, they're not local. Subatomic particles aren't local. If you take a subatomic particle in a physics lab and you give it a treatment over here in laboratory A, then there's a subatomic particle in laboratory Z that's going to have the same effect that you give this treatment to this subatomic particle in laboratory A. Because subatomic particles aren't local. They're everywhere and nowhere. They exist and they don't exist. They're physical and they're non-physical. Well, hey, guess what? That's what our mind is made out of. So do you feel your mind stretching just a little bit in terms of what's possible here? Oh, not breaking. Stretching. All right. Oh, I'm going backwards, and look, they're disappearing. We're losing our definition. It's like memento. All right, so mind is both physical and non-physical because molecules and atoms and subatomic particles are both physical and non-physical. Remember, we're talking about possibilities. You can't have too many possibilities. When you're doing healing work, you just can't have too many possibilities. You can't have too big of a possibility. Mind is universal. It is shared intelligence. As I mentioned earlier on when we talked about mirror neurons and entrainment, if you talk to me and have some kind of influence over me, which hopefully if I'm in your office you will, because that's the whole idea, then your mind has somehow influenced my mind, and my mind has mirrored your mind. So whose mind are we talking about? You know, where do we draw some distinction between your mind and my mind? And there's a lot of people who conjecture that there's one great mind that we all share, and we all get to participate in it, and we're all influencing each other. So it's shared intelligence in a very broad definition. I'm going backwards again. I got to remember, right is forward. Okay, so here's a quote from my website. The mind is much more than the brain and the nervous system. Mind is a perceptual and communication network that unites all of our physical, mental, and energetic systems, and that links us with others and with the universe. So that's a big definition of mind. And so just to kind of round the horn here, I'm taking what Einstein was looking for, the unifying principle of the universe. Well, you know, he found it in energy, but I'm conjecturing that energy, consciousness, awareness, and mind are all synonymous. They're all the basic building block. They're all made of the same thing. And that's what I've been kind of building up to throughout what we're talking about.